For years he lived haunted by the disappearance of his sister when she was still a child. Everything changes when his new employee sees an old portrait and exclaims, "Sir, that girl lived with me in the orphanage." From there, buried secrets begin to surface, revealing a web of lies and pain. Before listening to this incredible story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more exciting tales. Victor Allianz had always believed that destiny was a silent force, weaving its plots regardless of his wishes. But today, at 42, looking at the delicate portrait that remained on the main wall of the mansion, he questioned whether destiny was merely an excuse for the choices he lacked the courage to make. That portrait, an oil painting of his younger sister Helena, captured the innocent smile of a 6-year-old child who disappeared one sunny day in the capital's park. 28 years had passed, and that absence remained the only constant presence in his life. The imposing Allianz mansion, built high above an upscale neighborhood overlooking the entire city, seemed larger and emptier each year. Victor had inherited not only the family fortune, but also the weight of the silence that settled after Helena's disappearance. His parents never recovered. His mother fell ill with grief, and his father immersed himself in work until they both passed away, leaving their only son with the responsibility of keeping the girl's memory alive and the guilt of not having protected her. In his impeccably organized office, overlooking the gardens Helena loved so much, Victor reviewed documents while having his breakfast. The Allianz companies thrived under his leadership, expanding into diverse sectors, from technology to agribusiness. Business magazines called him the lonely businessman, a man who had transformed absence into obsessive productivity. No one knew, however, that each professional achievement was dedicated to a promise never verbalized: to find Helena someday. "Mr. Victor, may I come in?" The deep, serene voice of Rose, the housekeeper who had worked at the house for over 2 decades, interrupted his thoughts. "Sure, Rose. Any problem?" The woman entered the office with her usual formal posture, her hands clasped in front of her. "The new employee is here, the one who will be responsible for cleaning the East Wing." Victor simply nodded. He didn't get involved in hiring domestic staff. He left that to Rose. The mansion constantly needed new employees, as many couldn't stand the oppressive silence that hung over every room. Some said the house was haunted by sadness. "Do you want to meet her?" Rose asked, already anticipating the negative response. To his own surprise, Victor replied, "Yes, you can bring it." Minutes later, Rose returned accompanied by a young woman. When she entered the office, Victor immediately noticed something different. It wasn't her appearance, although she was discreetly beautiful, with brown hair tied in a simple bun and attentive eyes. It was the way she entered the room, as if she already knew every corner, every texture. "This is Chiara Lyman, sir. She will begin cleaning the East Wing today, as we agreed." The young woman gave a slight bow of her head. "Good morning, Mr. Allianz." Victor studied her for a few seconds. She must have been around 25 years old, with an upright posture, delicate hands, but with clear signs of hard work. Her eyes, however, revealed an intelligence that seemed out of place for someone seeking employment as a cleaning lady. "Have you worked in other houses before, Chiara?" "Yes, sir. I've worked in several homes in the countryside, but this is my first experience in the capital." "And what brought her to the capital?" An almost imperceptible hesitation preceded his reply. "Looking for better opportunities, sir, and some pending personal matters." Victor nodded, pleased with the brevity of the reply. He detested long explanations and unnecessarily shared life stories. "Rose will show you your responsibilities. I expect discretion and efficiency. You can count on that, Mr. Allianz." After the 2 women left, Victor turned his attention back to the documents, but something about the new employee kept echoing in his mind. A strange feeling, as if she brought with her a breath of change to that house stuck in time. In the following weeks, Victor barely noticed Chiara's presence. She worked quietly, never interfering with his routine, and performed her duties with mechanical precision. Only a month after her hiring, during a late dinner in the dining room, did Victor notice something different. Helena's portrait, which hung in one of the corridors he passed through to get to dinner, seemed brighter. Someone had cleaned the frame with special care. "Rose, who cleaned the portrait in the hallway?" he asked as he finished his meal. "Chiara, sir. She's been paying special attention to all the paintings in the house. She says she likes art." Rose hesitated before continuing. Actually, sir, she always stops in front of the portrait of little Helena. She stares at it for several minutes. Victor frowned. And why would she do that? I don't know, sir, but if you'd like, I can ask her not to do it anymore. No. The answer came too quickly. Leave her alone. Just watch. That night, Victor couldn't sleep. The image of a stranger gazing at Helena's portrait disturbed him inexplicably. He got up and walked through the silent corridors of the mansion until he stopped before the painting. Moonlight streamed through the tall windows, partially illuminating the girl's smiling face. How many times had he himself stood there, searching for answers in his sister's frozen gaze? What could that employee possibly be looking for? Excuse me, sir. I didn't know you were here. The voice startled Victor. Chiara was standing at the end of the hallway, wearing a simple robe over her pajamas, her loose hair framing a face that, under the silvery moonlight, seemed younger and more vulnerable. Insomnia? He asked, trying to disguise his discomfort at having been found in a moment of vulnerability. Yes, sir. Sometimes it's difficult to sleep in new places. She took a few hesitant steps toward Victor, stopping at a respectful distance. Her eyes briefly drifted to the portrait. It's a very beautiful painting. She was my sister. The words came out before he could stop them. Victor never spoke about Helena with anyone except Rose. Chiara showed no surprise, only a slight nod of recognition. She had a radiant smile. She did. Victor felt a lump in his throat. She disappeared when she was a child. We never found her. Chiara's eyes gleamed strangely in the moonlight. I'm sorry, Mr. Alliance. It was a long time ago. Victor turned to walk away, uncomfortable with his own vulnerability. Mr. Alliance, Chiara's voice stopped him. Do you believe that some people are destined to meet again, no matter how much time passes? The question, so unexpected and philosophically intimate, made Victor turn around slowly. Why are you asking me that? Just curious. Chiara looked away. A good evening, sir. Before he could answer, she walked away down the hall, her footsteps almost inaudible on the marble floor. Victor stood paralyzed, feeling as if he had just participated in a conversation far more meaningful than it appeared. The following morning, during breakfast, Victor watched Chiara serving coffee to Rose in the kitchen. There was something about the way she moved, the way she spoke, that seemed familiar in a way he couldn't quite put his finger on. Perhaps it was just his imagination, fueled by their strange nighttime conversation. A week later, Victor had to travel for a business conference. When he returned 3 days later, something had changed in the mansion. The silence seemed less dense, the air less heavy. As he passed the hallway where Helena's portrait hung, he stopped abruptly. The painting had been moved a few centimeters to the right, and below it on the decorative table was a small vase with wildflowers, Helena's favorites as a child. Rose, he called, his voice echoing through the empty hallways. The housekeeper appeared quickly, concern evident on her face. Yes, sir? Who moved the portrait, and who put these flowers here? Rose paled. Chiara, sir. She said the painting would be better lit if moved a little. As for the flowers, I didn't know you had put flowers there. I'll take them down immediately. No? Victor raised his hand, stopping her. Leave the flowers, but call Chiara here. Now, while he waited, Victor tried to control the irritation bubbling in his chest. Who was this woman to come into his house and tamper with his family's most sacred memories? What did she intend? Chiara arrived minutes later, her face serene, but with an intense gleam in her eyes. Mrs. Rose said that you wanted to see me. Yes, I want to know why you touched my sister's portrait without permission. Chiara did not flinch at his stern tone. I apologize, Mr. Alliance. I simply thought the painting deserved more light. The image of her has stayed in my mind ever since I first saw her. Victor felt an involuntary shiver. And the flowers. Why did you put flowers there? That's when something unexpected happened. Chiara's eyes filled with tears, not tears of fear or regret, but of a deep and inexplicable emotion. Mr. Alliance, his voice faltered, I need to tell you something. About your sister. The world seemed to freeze around Victor. Part of him wanted to send her away immediately, to protect himself from anything she might say. But another part, the one that had never stopped searching for answers, simply asked, what could you possibly know about my sister? Chiara's lips trembled slightly before she replied, "I knew her, Mr. Allianz. I grew up with her at the Star of Tomorrow orphanage in the countryside. She was my best friend." Victor felt his legs weaken. He leaned against the wall to avoid falling, while Helena's portrait seemed to come alive, observing that moment that could change everything. The silence that followed Chiara's statement seemed made of glass, thick, fragile and sharp. Victor stared at her as if he were an apparition, his dark eyes alternating between disbelief and a hope too painful to name. "It's impossible." The words came out in a hoarse whisper. "My sister disappeared almost 3 decades ago." Chiara remained firm, though her hands trembled slightly. "Mr. Allianz, I understand your distrust, but I knew her. At the orphanage, she had another name. Olivia. She was registered with documents that we later discovered were false." Victor felt his whole body tremble. Olivia. A name that meant nothing to him, but which suddenly seemed to carry the weight of the world. "Rose," he called, without taking his eyes off Chiara. "Bring us some water, and then leave us alone in the office." Minutes later, sitting across from each other in Victor's office, the afternoon sun cast long shadows through the tall windows. Victor had regained some of his composure, but his eyes still betrayed the inner storm. "I want you to tell me everything, every detail, and know that I have the resources to verify every word that comes out of your mouth." Chiara nodded, taking a sip of water before beginning. "I arrived at the Star of Tomorrow orphanage when I was 7 years old. It was a simple place run by nuns with limited resources, but a lot of love. It was there that I met Olivia, or Helena as I now know her name was." She paused as if organizing her memories. "She arrived a few months after me, brought by an elegant woman who claimed to represent the state. We were told that her adoptive parents had been in a fatal accident and that there were no other relatives. Olivia was about 7 years old at the time, a little confused, frightened, but there was something different about her." "Different how?" Victor's voice came out tense. "She didn't behave like the other abandoned children. She didn't cry at night calling for her mother. She didn't have that lost look. Instead, she told stories. Stories about a big house with huge gardens, about a piano she was learning to play, about an older brother who had promised to always protect her." Victor closed his eyes for a moment, the memory of the promise he had made to his little sister the night before her disappearance piercing him like a spear. "Nobody believed her," Chiara continued. "The nun said it was imagination, a way of coping with trauma. Other children mocked her, but I believed her, because she told those stories with a conviction that went beyond fantasy." "How long was she in that orphanage?" "Until she was 14. We were very close during all that time. We were like sisters." Chiara smiled sadly. "She would tell me about her secret garden, about the wildflowers her brother picked for her. She would talk about a pet name he used." Victor paled. "Lena of the sea." The words escaped him like a prayer. Chiara's eyes widened. "Yes, she said her brother called her that because her eyes were the color of the sea on a stormy day." Chiara leaned forward. "Mr. Allianz, no one could know about this. It was too intimate a detail." Victor stood up abruptly, walking to the window. His mind raced, trying to process the possibility unfolding before him. Helena, alive, growing up in an orphanage while he desperately searched for her. Pain and hope mingled in his chest in an almost unbearable way. "What happened when she was 14? He asked without turning around. Chiara took a deep breath. "There was an incident. One of the nuns found Olivia drawing portraits. She had an incredible talent for drawing. One of the portraits showed a family, a boy and a girl holding hands in front of a piano with adults in the background. The nun commented that this must be the family Olivia wished she had, and Olivia became furious. She shouted that this was her family, that she had been taken away, not abandoned. An investigation has been launched." Victor turned, his voice controlled despite the visible emotion. "Not in the proper way. The orphanage had limited resources, and the documentation presented when she arrived seemed legitimate. Besides," Chiara hesitated. "Furthermore, there was external pressure. An important benefactor of the orphanage, a certain Anna Allianz, intervened to have the matter closed. She said that revisiting past traumas would only harm Olivia's adjustment. Victor felt his blood run cold. Anna Allianz? Are you sure about that name? Absolutely. She was an elegant woman, always wearing expensive jewelry. She rarely went to the orphanage, but when she did, she always observed Olivia with a strange interest. Anna is my aunt. Victor pronounced each word as if they were stones. My father's younger sister. She distanced herself from the family after Helena's disappearance, saying she couldn't bear the atmosphere of mourning. We never suspected. After the discussion about the drawing, Olivia was different, quieter, more determined. One night, she woke me up. She showed me a new drawing, the same one of the two children at the piano, but this time with a phrase written underneath, "My name is Helena Allianz, and one day, my brother will find me." Victor covered his mouth with his hand, feeling the tears he had held back for so many years finally overflow. The next morning, she had disappeared. She left the drawing hidden with me, asking me to keep it until it was safe to show it. I was only 13 years old and I was terrified. The nuns searched everywhere, but Olivia, Helena, had fled without a trace. "And that drawing, do you still have it?" Victor's voice was urgent. Chiara lowered her gaze. "No, sir. The orphanage burned down a few years later. I lost almost everything I had, including the drawing, but I never forgot what was written on it, and I never forgot her face." Chiara pointed to the portrait. "When I saw this picture, I knew immediately. It's her. Younger than when I met her, but it's undoubtedly her." Victor sat down again, his mind racing. If what Chiara said was true, his sister had not only been alive all these years, but had also tried to return home. And his own aunt might be involved in her disappearance. "Why did you come to work here? How did you know where to find me?" "After I left the orphanage at 18, I tried to find Olivia, Helena. I didn't have the resources or knowledge for a proper search. I worked in several houses as a maid, always asking, always searching." Chiara straightened her shoulders. 6 months ago, I saw her picture in a business magazine. The surname Allianz immediately caught my attention. When I saw her face, there's a resemblance to her, especially in the eyes. I decided I needed to verify, so I got this job. "You planned all of this," Victor murmured, both impressed and suspicious. "I planned to find answers," Chiara corrected gently, "both for you and for me. Helena was the only family I knew during my childhood. I promised myself that one day I would find out what happened to her." Victor stood up, walking slowly to Helena's portrait. He touched the frame reverently. "If what you're saying is true, where is she now? Why did she run away from the orphanage? What happened after that?" Chiara joined him, keeping a respectful distance. "I don't know. After she ran away, I never saw her again. But there were rumors. An older nun, Sister Agnes, told me years later that she received a letter. A young woman who might have been Olivia had been admitted to a psychiatric hospital in a coastal town after being found wandering confused in the streets. By the time Sister Agnes got there, the young woman had already been discharged and left." "A psychiatric hospital?" Victor's voice faltered. "I don't know if it was really her or just a rumor, but Sister Agnes believed it. She said the young woman constantly drew the same picture, 2 children in front of a piano." Victor stared intently at Helena's portrait for long minutes, as if he could extract answers from that smile frozen in time. When he finally turned, there was a fierce determination in his gaze. "Chiara, I want you to understand something. If this is a lie, an extortion attempt, or some kind of scam, the consequences will be severe." "I'm not lying, Mr. Allianz. I understand your distrust, but I'm willing to help you find all the necessary evidence." "Great, because tomorrow we'll begin an investigation. I want to know everything about this orphanage, about Sister Agnes, and especially about this hospital. We're going to visit each of these places personally." Chiara's expression lit up with hope. "Are you serious? You're really going to look for her?" "I never stopped searching." Victor approached, his expression softer. "If there's even the slightest chance my sister is alive, I'll move heaven and earth to find her. And if my aunt is involved in her disappearance," his jaw clenched, "she'll pay for every day of suffering she caused our family." "There's something else I need to tell you," Chiara said hesitantly. "Something Helena told me once, when we were alone in the orphanage garden." Victor waited, his heart racing. "She said that on the day she disappeared, she was with a babysitter. They were in the city park. The babysitter left her playing for a moment to buy ice cream, and an elegant woman approached. She said she knew her parents, that there was an emergency, and that she needed to take her. Chiara paused. Helena said the woman had a strong floral perfume and was wearing a gold butterfly-shaped brooch. Victor felt his body go cold. My Aunt Anna always wore a butterfly brooch. It was her trademark. The sun was beginning to set, casting reddish shadows across the office. Helena's portrait seemed to watch them, like a silent witness to the conversation that could finally unravel the mystery that had consumed the Allianz family for almost 3 decades. I'm going to call Theo Muller, Victor decided. He's the best private investigator in the country. If there are any traces of Helena, he'll find them. Chiara nodded, a mixture of relief and apprehension on her face. What will happen to your aunt if we find out she was really involved? Victor's eyes gleamed with an intensity that made Chiara instinctively recoil. Justice, Chiara. After all these years, finally justice. That night, while the Allianz mansion finally slept, 2 souls remained awake. Victor in his office rummaged through old family albums, searching for photos of his Aunt Anna with the famous butterfly brooch, and Chiara, in her small room in the servants' wing, retrieved a yellowed piece of paper from inside the lining of her suitcase, an old drawing that had survived the fire protected inside a book. On it, 2 children smiled before a piano, and below, in childish handwriting, it was written, Helena and Victor forever. She hadn't lied about the drawing's content, only about its destination. Some truths needed to be revealed at the right time. And, for Chiara, that moment had finally arrived. The first rays of sunlight had barely touched the mansion windows when Victor was already up. The night had been short and restless, filled with dreams in which Helena called to him through an endless labyrinth. In his office, he methodically organized the information Chiara had given him, creating a timeline between Helena's disappearance and her time at the orphanage. There were many gaps, but for the first time in decades, there was a path to follow. The soft sound of knocking on the door interrupted her thoughts. Chiara entered carrying a tray of coffee. Good morning, Mr. Allianz. I thought you might want coffee earlier today. Thank you, Chiara. Victor noticed that she was already dressed to go out, in simple but neat clothes. I see you didn't get much sleep either. I couldn't, even if I tried. She placed the tray on the table and hesitated for a moment. Mr. Allianz, I brought something to show you. From her coat pocket, Chiara pulled out a carefully folded piece of paper. With hands that trembled slightly, she held it out to Victor. Yesterday, I didn't tell the whole truth. The drawing Helena made wasn't lost in the fire. I've kept it with me all these years. Victor took the paper as if it were a sacred relic. As he unfolded it, his heart stopped for a moment. There were 2 children holding hands before a piano, exactly as Chiara had described, and below the inscription in childish handwriting, Helena and Victor forever. Why didn't you show me this yesterday? Victor's voice came out choked, his eyes fixed on the drawing. I needed to be sure of his intentions. I protected this drawing for over 15 years, Mr. Allianz. It's the only concrete proof I have of Helena's existence after her disappearance. Victor looked up at Chiara, seeing her in a new light. You really care about her, don't you? She was the only family I had during my childhood. We, the children of the orphanage, learned to form our own blood ties. Chiara approached, pointing to a detail in the drawing. Look at the brooch on the woman in the background. Victor brought the paper close to his eyes. In the drawing, an adult figure in the background was wearing what appeared to be a butterfly-shaped brooch. The detail was small, but unmistakable. My aunt, she murmured, feeling a cold fury spread through her body. She's been involved the whole time. We need more evidence before accusing anyone, Mr. Allianz. Victor carefully folded the drawing and put it in the inside pocket of his jacket. That's why we're going to the orphanage today. I need to speak with this Sister Agnes you mentioned. If she's still alive, Chiara added softly. She was already elderly when I left the orphanage. Theo Muller will meet us there. Victor checked his watch. He's the best investigator I know, discreet and incorruptible. 2 hours later, a luxury car with a driver left the Allianz mansion, heading towards the countryside. In the back seat, Victor and Chiara maintained a silence heavy with expectation. The urban landscape gradually gave way to verdant fields and small villages. For Chiara, it was a journey to the past. For Victor, a plunge into the unknown. "What was the orphanage like?" Victor finally asked, breaking the long silence. It was a simple place, but clean and organized. The nuns did the best they could with limited resources. Chiara watched the landscape through the window. We had classes in the morning, light work in the afternoon. Helena, Olivia, loved tending the garden. "She always loved flowers," Victor commented, a sad smile playing on his lips. "When she was little, she had her own flower bed in the mansion's garden. She told me about that flower bed. She said you helped her take care of the seeds." Chiara turned to him excitedly. She was talking about a sunflower that grew so tall it almost reached her second-story window. Victor felt a lump in his throat. It was the summer before she disappeared. She was so proud of that sunflower. She said it was magical, that it had grown so much because she had asked the sun for it. She never forgot Mr. Alliance. All those details, all those memories, they were alive inside her. That's why I'm sure she was your sister. Another hour's drive and they finally spotted the small town where the orphanage was located. It was a modest place with simple houses clustered around a central square. The driver followed Chiara's directions until they reached a two-story building on the outskirts of town. The old building, which had once been white, now displayed a yellowish color from age. A discreet sign identified it. Star of Tomorrow Orphanage, Shelter and Education since 1965. "It seems smaller than I remembered," Chiara commented as they got out of the car. A man was waiting for them at the entrance, leaning against an unassuming car. Tall, with a serious demeanor and attentive eyes, he approached as soon as he saw them. "Mr. Alliance." He extended his hand in a firm greeting. "Theo." Victor returned the handshake. "This is Chiara Lehman. She grew up here and knew Helena." Theo nodded to Chiara, his professional gaze quickly assessing her. "I did some preliminary research on the orphanage. It's been run by the same religious order for over 50 years. The current director is Sister Viola, who has only been in the position for 5 years. "And what about Sister Agnes?" Chiara asked anxiously. "Still alive, but retired. She lives in a retirement home for nuns a few kilometers from here." Victor felt a wave of relief. "Great. We'll talk to her later. First, I want to see the records of this place." The trio walked to the entrance of the orphanage, where they were greeted by a young nun with a kind smile. Victor introduced himself as a businessman interested in making donations, and they were promptly led inside the building. The atmosphere was simple, but welcoming. Children of various ages passed through the corridors, some looking curiously at the well-dressed visitors. "Sister Viola will receive you in her office," the young nun informed them, leading them down a hallway with creaky wooden floors. Chiara walked as if in a trance, recognizing every corner, every door. "That was the study," she whispered to Victor, pointing to a half-open door. "And that door leads to the girls' dormitory." Victor watched everything intently, trying to imagine his sister growing up in that place, far from her family, far from him. The pain and guilt, dormant for years of resignation, returned with renewed force. The headmistress, Sister Viola, was a middle-aged woman with a serene expression and discerning eyes. She received them in a simple room with a dark wood table and shelves full of books and folders. "How can I help you?" he asked after the introductions. Victor got straight to the point. "We're looking for information about a girl who lived here between approximately 1997 and 2004. Her name was Olivia, but her real name was Helena Alliance, my sister." Sister Viola's expression shifted from cordial to cautious. "Mr. Alliance, I understand your concern, but our records are confidential to protect the privacy of the children." "Sister Viola," Chiara interjected, "I grew up here. I knew Olivia. We shared the same room for years. We have reason to believe she was brought here improperly after her disappearance." The nun studied Chiara intently. "You seem familiar. Chiara Lyman, isn't it? I remember you. You were one of the most diligent." "So you were here back then?" Theo asked. "Yes, I was a literature and art teacher." Viola hesitated as if pondering how much she could reveal. "I remember Olivia, an extraordinarily talented girl at drawing, and with very vivid stories about her life before the orphanage." "Stories that were true," Victor stated, leaning forward. Sister, my sister was kidnapped when she was 6 years old. We spent decades searching for her. If Olivia was really Helena, we need to know everything that happened here. Sister Viola closed her eyes for a moment, as if seeking divine guidance. When she opened them, her decision was made. I'm going to show you Olivia's record, but I need you to understand. At the time, we had no reason to doubt the documentation presented. We were, and still are, an institution with limited resources, receiving children referred by official bodies or in emergency situations. She stood up and walked to an old file in the corner of the room. After a few minutes of searching, she returned with a yellowed folder. Here it is. Olivia Sallin admitted in October 1997, approximately 7 years old. She opened the folder on the table. She was brought in by a representative who identified herself as a state social worker. The documents indicated that her adoptive parents had died in an accident and that there were no other relatives. Victor examined the documents carefully. These papers look official, but they're easily forged. Who was this social worker? The nun turned a few pages. Anna Muller. She visited the orphanage a few times in the first few months to monitor Olivia's adjustment. Then her visits became rare. Muller, Victor repeated, exchanging a meaningful look with Theo. My aunt used a fake last name, but kept her first name. There's more, Sister Viola continued, pointing to a document. Mrs. Muller became an important benefactor of the orphanage after bringing Olivia. Her donations funded the renovation of the library and the dining hall. He bought your silence, Victor murmured, his voice heavy with bitterness. It's not that simple, Mr. Alliance, the nun defended herself. We had no reason to suspect anything. The donations benefited dozens of children. And when did Olivia start talking about her past life? Chiara insisted. When did she talk about the family she had lost? Sister Viola lowered her eyes, a blush of shame coloring her cheeks. Many traumatized children create alternative narratives to cope with abandonment. Olivia wasn't the first to invent an ideal family that would come to get her one day. Except she wasn't making it up, Victor retorted, his voice trembling with restrained emotion. There was a time, the nun admitted slowly, when Olivia was about 12 years old. She drew such a detailed portrait of a house she claimed was hers, with such precise descriptions of the garden, the rooms, even the smell of the hallways. I began to wonder. I even mentioned it to the Mother Superior at the time. And what happened? Theo pressed. Mrs. Muller paid an unexpected visit that same week. She had a long conversation with the Mother Superior. After that, we were instructed to discourage Olivia's fantasies for her own good. The nun seemed genuinely remorseful. When she ran away at 14, I felt we had failed her in some way. Do you remember exactly when she ran away? Theo asked, taking notes. It was the spring of 2004. She simply didn't show up for breakfast. We searched everywhere, notified the authorities, but she had vanished without a trace. Not all traces, Chiara corrected. She left the drawing with me. She turned to Victor. And Sister Agnes received a letter years later about a young woman in a psychiatric hospital. Sister Viola nodded gravely. Yes, I remember that. Sister Agnes was very upset by that letter. She insisted we needed to verify it, but the young woman had already left the hospital when we arrived. We need to speak with Sister Agnes immediately, Victor decided. Before you go, Sister Viola gently took Victor's arm. There's something you should see. She led them down a hallway to a large room that served as both a library and an art room. On the walls hung dozens of framed drawings, all made by children over the years. We preserved this corner in memory of Olivia, he explained, indicating a section of the wall. These were her favorite drawings, the ones she chose to leave for the orphanage. Victor approached, feeling his legs weaken. The drawings, though made by children's hands, revealed extraordinary talent, and they all depicted the same theme: a large house, gardens, a piano, and always the two children holding hands. She never forgot, Chiara whispered beside her. She never stopped believing that one day she would return home. Victor touched one of the drawings with his fingertips, feeling an almost physical connection to his lost sister. I'll take her home, Lena of the Sea, he promised in a low voice. This time I won't fail. After photographing each drawing and collecting copies of Olivia's records, the group left the orphanage for the nursing home where Sister Agnes lived. During the journey, Theo shared additional information he had discovered. Anna Allianz runs an international adoption foundation, she explained. Ostensibly legitimate, but I found some irregularities in the financial records. Large sums transferred to offshore accounts, inconsistent documentation for some of the children. Do you think Helena wasn't the only one? Chiara asked, horrified. It's impossible to know without further investigation, Theo replied. But the pattern suggests systematic activity, not an isolated case. Victor looked out the window, his reflection in the glass revealing a face transformed by anger and determination. My aunt was always ambitious, always wanted more power in the family business. After Helena's disappearance, my father was completely devastated. She took over many of his responsibilities in the business, benefiting directly from the tragedy, Theo concluded. But why take Helena to an orphanage? Chiara asked. Why not something worse? A heavy silence fell over the car. It was Victor who finally answered, because she didn't want Helena to cease to exist. She wanted control over my sister's destiny, perhaps as a guarantee, perhaps as a sick form of power. But we need more proof before confronting her. The retirement home for retired nuns was an old but well-maintained building surrounded by flower gardens. They were greeted by a young nun, who led them to an airy room where an elderly lady waited in a wheelchair, watching the birds through the open window. Sister Agnes, the young nun called softly, the visitors you were expecting have arrived. The old woman turned slowly. Her wrinkled face lit up as she recognized Chiara. My dear girl, his voice was weak but clear, I knew that one day you would return. Chiara knelt beside the chair, holding the old woman's bony hands in her own. Sister Agnes, I brought someone with me, someone who has spent their entire life searching for Olivia. The nun looked up at Victor, studying him with an intensity surprising for someone of her advanced age. You have her eyes, he said finally. The same eyes, the color of a stormy sea. Victor felt his heart race. Do you remember my sister? How could I forget? Such a determined soul in such a small child. Agnes smiled sadly. I always knew her stories were true. There was a conviction in her that no fantasy could explain. The lady received a letter, said Theo, approaching her, about a young woman in a psychiatric hospital. Agnes nodded slowly. It was in 2009, approximately 5 years after Olivia ran away. A nurse from Santa Clara Hospital on the coast wrote to me. A young woman had been admitted after being found wandering disoriented on the beach. She had no documents, but she was carrying a drawing of 2 children in front of a piano. And you went there, ma'am? Victor asked, leaning forward anxiously. Yes, but I arrived too late. The young woman had been discharged the previous week. The nurse showed me the drawings she had made during her stay. Agnes closed her eyes as if visualizing the images. They were the same themes: the house, the garden, the piano. But there was something new. A beach with a red and white lighthouse. Victor and Chiara exchanged a surprised look. The lighthouse at Praia das Conchas, said Victor. Our family had a summer house there. Helena loved the lighthouse. She said it was a gentle giant guarding the sea. Agnes smiled, a single tear rolling down her wrinkled face. So it was true. Everything she said was true. Do you know where she went after leaving the hospital? Theo asked. The nurse said she left a message. I need to go back to the beginning. I never understood what it meant. Victor looked at Chiara, a new understanding dawning in his eyes. The beginning, the beach, the lighthouse. That's where we must go. Agnes held Chiara's hand with surprising strength. My dear, there's something I've saved for you, something I thought might be important someday. From a hidden pocket in her habit, the elderly woman pulled out a small envelope, yellowed with age. After Olivia ran away, I found this hidden under the loose floorboards near her bed. I never showed it to anyone. With trembling hands, Chiara opened the envelope. Inside was a thin silver chain with a pendant shaped like a seashell. My birthday present for her, Victor whispered, instantly recognizing the jewel. I gave it to her on her 6th birthday, 3 months before she disappeared. There's something else in the envelope, Agnes indicated. Chiara turned the envelope over, and a small folded piece of paper fell into her lap. Opening it, she found a single sentence written in the jagged handwriting of a teenager. When the shells sing, I will be waiting. Victor felt a shiver run down his spine. The singing shells. A rock formation near the lighthouse. When the tide rises, the wind passes through the cavities in the rocks, producing a sound similar to singing. That's where she went, Chiara concluded, her face lit up with hope. That's where we should look for her. Sister Agnes smiled, suddenly looking younger and lighter. Go, find her. Tell her I never stopped believing. As they left the nursing home, the sun began to set on the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink. Victor looked at Chiara, who held the seashell necklace reverently. We're getting closer, aren't we? She asked. Hope and fear mixed in her voice. Victor nodded, an ironclad determination in his eyes. Yes, and this time, I won't stop until I find her. As the car sped along the winding road toward the coast, none of the three noticed the discreet vehicle following them at a distance. In the passenger seat, an elegant woman with grey hair observed through dark glasses, a gold butterfly brooch gleaming on her coat. Anna Allianz made a brief call. They're heading for the coast, to the lighthouse. Her voice was cold and controlled. We need to get there first. The coastline unfolded before them like a moving painting, the deep blue of the sea contrasting with the golden sand of the beach, while the rising sun cast orange reflections on the waves. Victor, who had spent the entire night driving after dismissing his driver, a decision motivated by both urgency and the need to maintain control, felt a mixture of fatigue and anxiety. We've arrived, he announced, parking the car atop a hill that offered panoramic views of the deserted beach. Chiara, who had briefly slept during the journey, woke up completely when she saw the red and white lighthouse rising majestically over a rocky promontory in the distance. It's exactly how she drew it, she whispered, amazed. Theo, who had followed them in his own vehicle, joined them in the silent contemplation of the landscape. The lighthouse is still functioning, he observed, but there seems to be a small community around it. Houses, a few shops. A village of fishermen and artists, Victor explained. When we were children, this place was almost deserted. Our summer house was there. He pointed to an area further away from the beach, where elegant houses lined up overlooking the sea. Over time, the region developed, attracting people seeking peace and inspiration. A good place for someone to hide without actually disappearing, Theo commented. Victor nodded, his eyes fixed on the lighthouse. Let's start there. The singing shells are at the base of that promontory. They descended the hill towards the village. The narrow streets were paved with irregular stones, and the colorful houses displayed a rustic and welcoming charm. Despite the early hour, some residents were already out and about, preparing for the workday. Fishermen were arranging their nets, craft shops were opening their doors, and the aroma of fresh bread wafted from a small bakery. Let's split up, Theo suggested. We'll cover more ground. Look for information on an artist who paints portraits of children, someone who has arrived here in recent years. We'll meet at the cafe near the lighthouse in 2 hours, Victor agreed. Chiara, however, hesitated. Wouldn't it be better to go straight to the singing shells? If she left that message, the tide is high now, Victor explained. The rocks are partially submerged. We need to wait a few hours. In the meantime, we can investigate the village. During the following hours, the three wandered through the small community, talking to locals and visiting art and craft shops. Victor felt strangely connected to Helena in that place, as if he could feel her presence on every corner, in every alley. At the port, an elderly fisherman named Marco recalled a young artist. Yes, there's a girl who draws portraits at the Sunday market. She has a special talent for capturing children. Olivia, I think that's her name. Victor's heart raced. Olivia, are you sure? Almost certain. She doesn't live exactly in the village. She has a small studio near the lighthouse, a secluded spot. We rarely see her except on market days. And when is the next fair? Chiara asked eagerly. Tomorrow, my dear. Always on Sundays in the central square. Victor could barely contain his excitement. Can we find that studio? The fisherman scratched his grey beard. It's a difficult place to get to. A simple hut on the way to the singing shells. But she values her privacy. I tried to visit her once to commission a portrait of my grandson, and she seemed startled by my presence. Chiara and Victor exchanged meaningful glances. The description perfectly matched the expected behavior of someone who had lived their entire life on the run. When they met at the cafe, Theo also had news. I spoke with the owner of the local art gallery. She knows an artist named Olivia, who occasionally sells some of her work there, mostly seascapes and portraits of children. And what does she look like? Victor asked, almost breathless. A woman of about 35 years old, with long brown hair and blue-gray eyes, quiet and reserved. She refuses to participate in formal exhibitions or to reveal her last name. "It's her," Chiara whispered, clutching the shell pendant she had been wearing since her visit to Sister Agnes. "It has to be her." Victor gazed at the sea through the cafe window. "The tide will start to go out soon. Let's go to the Singing Shells." The path to the rock formation was steep and rugged. They left the cars in the parking lot near the lighthouse and followed a narrow trail that snaked along the cliff. Victor led the group, each step firm despite the unstable terrain, driven by a renewed determination. "There," he finally indicated, pointing to a rock formation sculpted by the millennia-old action of the waves, the Singing Shells. It was an impressive natural spectacle, large rocks shaped like giant shells, some with openings that, when touched by the wind and receding waves, produced melodic sounds similar to natural flutes. "It's beautiful," Chiara murmured. Helena was fascinated by this place, Victor recalled, his voice choked with emotion. She said the rocks sang because they held the voices of enchanted mermaids. Theo, ever practical, scanned the surroundings. "There," he pointed to a small building, almost hidden among the trees growing at the base of the cliff. "That must be the cabin the fisherman mentioned." It was a simple wooden structure with a small deck facing the sea. Wildflowers grew in abundance around it, creating a colorful oasis amidst the coastal vegetation. A thin wisp of smoke escaped from the chimney, indicating its presence. "She's there," Chiara whispered, squeezing Victor's arm. "I can feel her." Victor swallowed hard, suddenly paralyzed. After decades of searching, being potentially just a few meters away from Helena seemed unreal, almost terrifying in its intensity. What if it wasn't her? What if it was, but she didn't recognize him? What if she hated him for not finding her sooner? "Do you want me to go first?" Chiara offered, noticing his hesitation. "No," Victor straightened his shoulders. "It needs to be me. But stay close." They walked slowly towards the cabin, the sounds of the singing conches creating an ethereal soundtrack for the moment. As they approached, they could see easels arranged on the deck, some covered with cloths, others displaying canvases in different stages of completion. Victor climbed the 3 steps leading to the deck, his heart pounding in his chest. He took a deep breath and knocked on the door. The silence that followed seemed to stretch for an eternity. Then, soft, hesitant footsteps approached from the other side. The doorknob turned slowly and the door opened. A woman stood on the threshold. Brown hair with grey streaks framed a delicate face marked by time and experience. But it was her eyes that instantly captured Victor. Blue-grey like the sea on a stormy day, exactly like Helena's, exactly like his own. For a timeless moment, the two simply gazed at each other, the world around them fading completely. Victor saw the slow recognition emerge in those familiar eyes, followed by disbelief, then by an emotion so profound it defied description. "Lena Dumar." Victor's voice came out as a sigh, using the nickname that only he knew. The woman brought her hand to her mouth, a muffled sound escaping her lips. Her legs seemed to weaken, and Victor instinctively stepped forward, supporting her. "Victor." The name was pronounced like a prayer, a question, and a certainty all at once. "Is it really you?" And then, without warning, she threw herself into his arms, a deep sob shaking her entire body. Victor hugged her tightly, holding back tears that wouldn't compromise his breathing, feeling the tears he had held back for decades finally overflow. "I found you," he murmured repeatedly against her hair. "I finally found you." Chiara watched the scene with silent tears streaming down her face, while Theo kept a respectful distance, his watchful gaze alternating between the emotional reunion and the surroundings, as if he sensed danger. When they finally parted, just enough to look into each other's eyes, Helena, for it was undoubtedly she, touched her brother's face with trembling fingers. "I always knew you would find me," she said, her voice breaking. "I never lost hope." Her gaze then shifted beyond Victor's shoulder, fixing on Chiara. The expression of surprise was quickly replaced by a radiant smile. "Chiara? My Chiara?" Chiara stepped forward, unable to contain her emotion. "Yes, Olivia. Helena, it's me." The two women embraced with the familiarity of sisters reunited, while Victor watched, marveling at the complex destiny that had intertwined their lives. "Come in," Helena invited after the moment of reconnection. We have so much to talk about. The cabin's interior was simple yet welcoming, every inch reflecting the artistic soul of its inhabitant. Canvases hung on the walls, some finished, others in progress. All depicted children, families, or seascapes. A small upright piano occupied a corner, surprisingly well preserved for the humid beach environment. "You still play," Victor remarked, visibly moved. "Not as well as I'd like," Helena admitted. "But the music never left me." She sat in a simple armchair, her eyes never leaving her brother's face, as if she feared he might disappear at any moment. "How did you find me?" "Kiara," Victor replied simply. "She came to work at my house a few months ago. She recognized your portrait." Helena turned to her childhood friend. "Did you do this on purpose? You came looking for me after all these years?" Kiara nodded. "I never forgot my promise. I said that one day I would find out what happened to you, remember? When I saw Victor's picture in a business magazine, the surname Allianz, and those eyes so similar to yours, I knew I needed to investigate." "Your escape from the orphanage," Victor interjected gently. "What happened after that? Where have you been all these years?" Helena's face darkened momentarily. She stood up and walked to the window overlooking the sea. "It's a long story," he finally said, "and not all the parts are clear to me even now." "We have all the time in the world," Victor assured. Helena sighed deeply. "I ran away because I finally understood what had happened. A new girl arrived at the orphanage with a story very similar to mine. And then I saw that woman again, the one who called herself a social worker, wearing the butterfly brooch. Something stirred in my memory. I remembered the day in the park, the ice cream, the elegant woman who said she knew our parents. Our Aunt Anna," Victor confirmed grimly. Helena nodded. "I didn't know who she was at the time, only that she needed to escape, to find answers. I was only 14 years old and had no resources. I wandered for weeks, surviving as best I could, always drawing, trying to keep alive the memories that were beginning to resurface." She paused, her eyes lost in painful memories. "Eventually, I was found by a family of itinerant artists. They traveled the country selling handicrafts at fairs. They took me in and taught me to hone my talent for drawing and painting." "How long did she stay with them?" Kiara asked softly. "Almost 3 years. They were good to me, but I never told my true story. I was afraid they would return me to the orphanage, or worse, that she would find me again." Theo, who had been silently observing until then, interjected. "What made her leave them?" "The memories," Helena replied, a tremor in her voice. "They began to return with greater intensity, more clarity. Vivid dreams about the mansion, the garden, the piano, and nightmares about the day I was taken. I started having anxiety attacks, episodes of mental confusion." She sat down again, her hands trembling slightly. "One day, during a fair in a coastal town, I had a breakdown. I remember drawing a child's portrait and suddenly recognizing Victor's features in it. I started screaming, calling for my brother in the middle of the public square. I was taken to a hospital." "Santa Clara Hospital," Victor added. Helena looked at him in surprise. "How do you know?" "Sister Agnes received a letter," Kiara explained, "from a nurse who noticed her drawings." A sad smile touched Helena's lips. "Agnes, dear Sister Agnes, she always believed in me." "What happened at the hospital?" Victor asked gently. "I was diagnosed with dissociative disorders and psychotic episodes. The doctors believed my memories were delusions, fantasies created to cope with some underlying trauma." Helena laughed humorlessly. "The irony is that the real delusion was denying my true story. How did he get out of there?" Theo continued to discreetly take notes. "A nurse, Fiona, took an interest in my drawings. We talked a lot during her shift. One day I showed her a portrait I had done from memory, a portrait of Victor. She commented that he looked a lot like a famous businessman who frequently appeared in business magazines." Helena stood up again, walking to a small chest of drawers. She opened a drawer and took out a yellowed magazine clipping. "That's when I saw your face again after so many years. The name Allianz confirmed what my heart already knew." Victor received the clipping with trembling hands. "It was an article about promising young entrepreneurs from approximately 15 years ago. Fiona helped me get out of the hospital. She forged some documents so I could be released without too many questions. I wanted to contact you immediately, but, Victor encouraged her when she hesitated. I was afraid, Helena admitted, tears glistening in her eyes. Afraid that she wouldn't recognize me, that she wouldn't believe my story, afraid that she still had power over our lives. I needed to better understand what had happened to me before I reappeared. Then she came here, Kiara concluded, to the Singing Shells. Helena nodded. It was the only place where I felt truly connected to my purest childhood memories. I bought this cabin with the money I earned selling my paintings. I slowly rebuilt my life, finding peace in art and nature. Why didn't you contact me afterwards? Victor asked, a hint of pain in his voice. I tried, Victor. Twice I reached the gates of the mansion, but each time I saw her leaving or entering. Anna, her constant presence in the house made me retreat. Helena took a deep breath. So I decided to wait. I knew that if I continued painting, if I continued to be true to my memories through art, eventually destiny would reunite us. Victor held his sister's hands in his. Helena, our Aunt Anna never stopped visiting the mansion, even after our parents left. She maintained her position in the family business, always close, always vigilant. His jaw tightened. Now, I understand why. What are we going to do about her? Kiara asked. Before Victor could answer, Theo, who was watching from the window, interrupted. We have company. A car just parked near the trail. Victor joined Theo at the window. In the distance, he could make out the elegant silhouette of a gray-haired woman stepping out of a luxurious vehicle, the unmistakable glint of a butterfly brooch sparkling in the sun. Anna, he whispered, a chill running down his spine. Helena visibly paled, taking a few steps back. She found us. Don't be afraid, Victor said protectively, stepping in front of his sister. She can't hurt us anymore, I won't allow it. Theo was already in action, checking the exits from the cabin. There's a secondary trail at the back. It leads directly to the lighthouse. We can leave that way. No, Helena's voice sounded surprisingly firm. I'm tired of running, tired of living in the shadows. If she's come this far, it's time to face her. Victor looked at his sister with renewed admiration. Even after everything she had been through, the determination that had always characterized her remained intact. You're right, he agreed. The moment of truth has arrived. The four positioned themselves on the cabin's porch, watching Anna Allianz slowly climb the trail toward them. Despite her 70 years, she maintained the impeccable posture and intimidating elegance that had always characterized her. Her face, though marked by time, still displayed the cool beauty that captivated social circles. Upon seeing them, Anna paused for a moment, her calculating gaze assessing the situation. Then, with a rehearsed smile, she continued her approach. Victor, darling, her melodious voice carried that false sweetness that he now recognized as manipulative. What a coincidence to find you here. Don't insult our intelligence, Anna, Victor retorted, his voice sharp. You followed us, as you have done all your life. Anna's smile faltered for only a second before recovering. Her gaze then fixed on Helena, a complex mix of emotions coursing across her face. Olivia, she pronounced the name slowly. Or should I say, Helena? You've grown so much since the last time we saw each other. Helena stepped forward, standing beside her brother. Since you kidnapped me, you mean? Anna sighed dramatically. What a strong word, darling. I prefer to think that I offered you an alternative life, far from the overwhelming expectations of the Allianz family. A life in an orphanage? Kiara asked, unable to contain her indignation. Separated from her family, from her brother? And who are you? Anna turned to Kiara, disdain evident in her voice. Someone who truly cared about Helena, Victor replied, before Kiara could speak. Unlike you, who used an innocent child as a pawn in your power game. A strong wind blew from the sea, causing the singing shells to emit their melancholy sound. Anna adjusted her elegant coat, her butterfly brooch shimmering in the sun. You don't understand. You never will. For the first time, her mask of control seemed to crack. Your father, my brother, always excluded me from the family business. Women have no place on the board, Anna. That's what he'd say. while preparing Victor to take over everything even though he was just a child. "So you decided to take me out of the way too?" Helena asked, her voice surprisingly calm. Anna stared at her, a hint of guilt flashing across her eyes. "I didn't mean to hurt you, Helena. I just needed a guarantee. Insurance against your father's decisions. If he continued to exclude me from the business, I would reveal that I knew where his precious little girl was." "You're sick," Victor murmured, horrified by the confession. "I'm pragmatic," Anna corrected, regaining some of her composure. "And it worked, didn't it? After Helena's disappearance, her father was devastated, incapable of leading. I took on many of his responsibilities, finally earning the recognition I deserved. At the cost of an entire family's suffering," Victor accused. "Sacrifices are necessary for great achievements," Anna replied coldly. "Helena was well cared for in the orphanage. She could have had a peaceful life if she hadn't insisted on clinging to inconvenient memories." Helena took another step forward, coming face to face with the woman who had destroyed her childhood. "And the other children? Because I know I wasn't the only one. I saw documents in the Mother Superior's office. Other children arrived at the orphanage in the same way I did, brought by you." Anna didn't answer immediately, her eyes calculating her next move as if on a chessboard. "The Adoption Foundation," Theo interjected, having remained silent until then. "You used your position to facilitate illegal adoptions, didn't you? Children taken from their families, falsified documentation. A lucrative side business," Victor concluded, the pieces finally falling into place. While using Helena as collateral for his position in the company, he profited from trafficking other children. "Trafficking is a very ugly word," Anna retorted disdainfully. "I prefer to think that it efficiently reallocated human resources. Wealthy families desperate for children, paying small fortunes for discretion and speed. Her beneficial arrangement for everyone. Except for the children and their original families," Chiara pointed out, anger evident in her voice. Anna shrugged. Business always has its ethical complexities. Victor felt the rage boiling in his blood, but he maintained his composure. "It's all over, Anna. We have enough evidence to expose your crimes. Helena's drawing with her brooch, the testimonies, the orphanage records, circumstantial evidence," Anna dismissed with a dismissive gesture. "And you really want to expose the Alliance family to a scandal of this magnitude? Think of the consequences for the company, Victor, for your father's legacy." "Don't you dare speak of my father's legacy." Victor took a menacing step toward his aunt. "You betrayed him in the worst possible way." "I came to offer a deal." Anna ignored his fury, maintaining a businesslike tone. "Keep this story buried, and I will transfer my shares in the company to you. I will completely withdraw from Alliance's business. In return, you allow me to live my final years in peace away from scandals and courts." Helena, who was watching her aunt with a mixture of disgust and pity, shook her head slowly. "You still don't understand, do you? This was never about money or power for us. It was about family, about love, things you will never understand." Anna's gaze hardened. "Don't be fools. I'm offering a clean, discreet solution. Otherwise—" "Or what?" Victor challenged. "Are you going to threaten a grown woman now? Are you going to try to kidnap Helena again?" For a moment, Anna seemed genuinely confused, as if she couldn't understand why her offer was being rejected. Then, her face took on a resigned expression. "You're more like your father than I imagined. The same moral stubbornness, the same naive view of the world." She adjusted her bag on her shoulder. "Do what you think is best. But remember, stories like this rarely have happy endings for anyone involved." He started to walk away, but stopped when he heard Helena's voice. "Anna." The older woman turned around, one eyebrow raised in question. "I spent years of my life hating you," Helena said with surprising calm, "imagining 1,000 ways to get revenge. But now, looking at you, I only see a lonely woman who traded love for power and ended up with neither." Anna's eyes gleamed dangerously, but she didn't answer. With one last icy look, she turned and walked down the path toward her car. "She's going to run away," Theo warned, already reaching for the phone. "Let her go," Victor surprised her. "We have all the evidence we need. And more importantly," he turned to Helena, holding her hands tenderly, "we've found what really matters." Helena looked at her brother, at Chiara, and then at the endless sea beyond the singing shells. "Yes," she agreed, a serene smile lighting up her face. We finally found it. As they watched Anna leave, neither of them spoke for a few moments. It was as if a painful chapter of their lives was finally closing, making way for a new beginning. "What will we do now?" Chiara finally asked. Helena looked at her brother, a silent question in her eyes. "Let's go home," Victor replied simply. "It's time for Helena Allianz to go back to where she belongs." And as the sun began its descent toward the horizon, the singing shells seemed to chant a different melody, no longer a lament, but a song of new beginnings and hope. The drive back to the Allianz mansion was filled with a silence heavy with emotion. Helena watched the landscape gradually changing out the car window, from the bucolic coastline to the urban sophistication of the capital. Her fingers drummed nervously on the seashell necklace she had found among her belongings, a relic from her lost childhood. "We're almost there," Victor announced, his gentle voice breaking the silence. When the mansion gates finally appeared, imposing and familiar, Helena felt her heart race. How many nights had she dreamed of this moment? For how many years had that image remained etched in her memory, resisting all attempts to erase it? Rose waited at the entrance, her wrinkled face bathed in tears as she watched Helena get out of the car. "My girl," she whispered, opening her arms. "Finally home." The embrace that followed contained decades of absence, of mourning, of hope never abandoned. Helena felt transported back in time, once again the 6-year-old girl who ran into the governess's arms after a day in the garden. In the days that followed, Helena rediscovered the mansion and herself. Each room stirred memories, some vivid, others fragmented, all precious. The room that had been hers in childhood had been preserved like a sanctuary, every detail exactly as she remembered it. Victor explained that his parents, and later he himself, had kept everything intact, fueled by the hope that one day she would return. Chiara, who initially planned to leave, was persuaded to stay. "You're as much family to Helena as I am," Victor insisted. "Perhaps even more so considering the years you've spent together." It was Chiara who suggested creating the foundation. "There are other children like Helena," she argued during a dinner, "other separated families that could be reunited." The idea quickly gained traction. Victor offered financial resources and business contacts. Theo contributed his investigative expertise. Helena and Chiara brought their lived experience and deep understanding of the trauma of separation. Meanwhile, Anna Allianz faced the consequences of her actions, not through a public trial that would expose the entire family to scandal, but through a private agreement. Her personal fortune would be transferred to the foundation, and she would provide all the documentation about her network of illegal adoptions. In exchange, she would avoid criminal prosecution. "She's paying in her own way," Victor explained when Helena expressed concern about the fairness of the deal. "She'll lose everything she values: power, social status, respect. For someone like Anna, that's worse than prison." The New Paths Foundation was officially inaugurated 3 months after Helena's return. Its mission, to locate people who had been separated from their families through Anna's network, and to offer comprehensive support, psychological, legal, and financial, for reunifications when possible and desired. The first success came quickly. A young woman named Anna Muller, hospitalized in a psychiatric hospital with a diagnosis of dissociative disorder, was identified as one of the missing children. Like Helena, she obsessively drew the same house, the same garden, seeking to keep alive memories that everyone insisted were just delusions. On the day Anna Muller was finally reunited with her biological family, Helena watched from a distance, silent tears streaming down her face. Chiara approached, linking her arm with Helena's. "It was worth it, wasn't it?" he asked softly. Helena nodded, unable to speak. That meeting represented more than the Foundation's success. It was the validation of her own journey, proof that her suffering had not been in vain, that it could be transformed into something greater, something that would benefit others who shared her pain. That night, gathered in the mansion's music room, Victor watched Helena play the piano, hesitant at first, gaining confidence with each note. The simple melody her mother had taught her in childhood filled the room, exercising decades of silence. "What do you think our parents would say if they could see us now?" Helena asked, her hands resting momentarily on the keys. Victor reflected for a moment. "I think they'd say that true love always finds its way home." Chiara, who was organizing old sheet music found in the attic, smiled at the answer. "And it's true. Look at the 3 of us, brought together by improbable circumstances, connected by something stronger than blood or destiny. Helena resumed playing the melody, now more confident, more complete. As her hands danced across the keys, her gaze wandered around the room illuminated by the golden light of the late afternoon. Her brother, her best friend, her restored home. It wasn't the end she had imagined during those lonely years, but a much richer, much more meaningful beginning. Outside in the garden, the wildflowers that had been replanted exactly as Helena had described them were beginning to bloom. A new sunflower, as ambitious as the one from her childhood, was already reaching for the sky, attaining impossible heights, just like the hope that had never completely died. And as the music flowed from the living room to the gardens, beyond the walls of the Allianz mansion, Helena knew with absolute certainty that she had finally found her true home. Not just a physical place, but a purpose, a rebuilt family, and a future that, after so many detours, was finally beginning. End of story. Dear listeners, we hope that Helena, Victor, and Chiara's journey has touched your hearts. For more equally moving stories, be sure to check out our special playlist, available here. If this narrative of reunion and overcoming challenges resonated with you, please like and subscribe to our channel. Share your thoughts in the comments about this story of bonds that even time couldn't break. Every day we bring you new stories that explore the complexities of life and the power of love. Until our next meeting.